23.386. New fast flat for you.
All right, let's take a look at that. Sorry, I forgot to go over this while I was still in the session, and I still don't have my replay software that can do the telestrating and stuff. So we're gonna have to deal with just this for this one. So for the out lap, this will be coming to the second lap here for the truck. So what I like to do here is I like to get up by the wall, and instead of just wall ride the whole way, you want to turn down the hill a little bit, about halfway through, so that you can straighten out your wheel earlier. If you stay by the wall this whole time, you're going to have your wheel turned the entire time, and it's going to make it a lot easier for you to spin out. And you don't want to spin out or even disengage any rear tire, because that will cause you to lose momentum and basically nullify the effect of running this high line. So I try to straighten out my exit by turning down right here and get a pretty good run to the line. And so now turning into the corner here, I am aiming right here, right at this seam right here, not the top seam, but the second seam down. Now turn one, you're gonna have nasty bumps right at the wall, so you can't miss this by any amount. You have to really get it to that seam, maybe even dip your tires a little bit below it, but really right on it is where you want it to be, and then you won't deal with those bumps. If you go any higher than this, like I'm saying like a quarter of a lane, half a lane, your rights will start to get in these nasty bumps up here, and you're never gonna run a fast lap like that. So drive here, and the braking to throttle. So I basically just trail brake. So I get off the gas about right here to about half gas, and then I transition that half gas quickly into a trail brake of about 15%. I hold that just until my car is able to stick to the seam, and then I pick up my throttle to about half or 3/4, and then I raise the throttle through out there. So one way that a lot of people are slow doing this kind of line is they're too late to get back to gas. You can get back to gas as soon as your weight transfers. And how do you know your weight transfers? Is if the car is neutral in its line instead of wanting to slide up and hit the wall. And you can't force it with the wheel. All right, so a little bit loose off the corner, but pretty stable. It's not too hard to handle. 3 and 4, exact same deal. Same exact line, except there's no bumps to worry about, so I don't have to worry about perfectly hitting that line. And the reason that I like this better than all the way at the top is, again, I can straighten out my wheel. So it's the same type of banking as you get on the top lane, except I can arc it in a little more, bring in a little more speed in, carry a little more, keep the car a little straighter throughout, and that just adds up to a little bit more than the top line. The bottom is just too slow coming off the corner. You lose too much momentum. So trail brake, once your weight shifts, get to partial throttle, partial being 60-70%, and then raise it 100% pretty quickly, but make it semi-smooth. Doesn't have to be the smoothest thing in the world, but just semi-smooth. That's really all I got for Iowa. You'll notice that if you watch my ARCA video, I talked about how you need to be at 50% throttle. The truck is a little bit more stable under that much gas. A little feels more underpowered. Maybe that's not true, but that's how it feels. So you can go a little bit more off the rip, 60-70%. All right, now let's go look at the long run. All right, now let's talk about long runs. So I was running the top there for qualifying, and that's definitely the line for qualifying, 100%. But I do really like the bottom for race, and this is why this is kind of multi-geared. You'll see here that my lap times are not that bad running the bottom. In fact, they're about where they should be, even if you're trying to push on the top at the beginning of a race, because obviously you're not going to go as hard as qualifying at the beginning of a race, because that just destroys your tires. So any sort of line for race up top is pretty matched by the line on the bottom for race. Why I like the bottom is because you can use your brake more to rotate the car. I use more brake in this. And so when I use more brake, I'm able to rotate the car more in the corner, and I'm able to put less heat into the right front tire. And this setup is, we're really going to care about the right front tire. Last week, we didn't care about the right front tire very much. We cared about the right rear. This week, we care a lot about this right front. And the way that we care for the right front is we just don't turn the wheel as much. So you can use the top, of course. The top is a great line. I will show you a couple things about the top though, but I'm just kind of going through all the lines right now and showing that they all kind of have the same speed. So maybe it's down to comfort. If you're finding that you're just not understanding one of the lines, maybe pushing it too hard on corner entry, and you just have to have the car work a lot in corner center, that probably means that you should just try other lines then. if you don't want to fix that at least. But you can see that it's pretty easy to get a good lap time along the bottom here. So, what I want to show you is top of 1 and 2. Do not run by the wall in 1 and 2. I'm going to show you why right here. So I'm going to enter the top. We're going to try to get to the corner, and then we just hit the biggest bumps of all time. Maybe you guys have all experienced that before, but if you haven't, there you go. Those are huge bumps. So, top of 3 and 4, you can go all the way up top, but I find that this seam is just as good, if not better, than the actual top, because you have a little bit more room to the wall on exit. 1 and 2, you have to aim with your left side right on the seam here. If you aren't just right on the seam, you're going to hit the bumps. But you can see that it's a pretty smooth ride if you're able to miss those bumps. So it's a pretty narrow path to get through. 3 and 4 is a lot more forgiving, but again, you don't want to overdrive it because you're just going to use up extra tire sliding up the track. So if you want to back out a little bit earlier in these corners so that you can make sure that you get to the seam, so you make sure you don't overdrive it. We talked about that in qualifying too, of course, but it's just as applicable here. But you can see that my lap times on the top here are only marginally better than the bottom. So you're not going to make up a ton of track position on people by just running the top. You're not going to get from like 10th to 1st in 10 laps. Like, let's run the bottom here. Let's do a comparison. Running the bottom. Using a little more brake to rotate the car, and we're going to just drive straight up the track here. We're going to be ahead a little bit at the marker, but yeah, about half a tenth off. More brake here, and then we get off here, and so we'll fall maybe about a tenth behind. So we're losing a tenth by running the bottom compared to the top, and that's even assuming that I wasn't running the bottom particularly well. So that's just how it kind of goes. You run the bottom if you have a little bit of room off your back, you want to save some tire, just early entries, just hug the bottom, drive straight up the track, use as little wheel input as exit as possible, and then if you are feeling a little bit of heat, maybe you get put to the outside, maybe you want to pass somebody, then you go to the seam here, drive right on the seam, cannot go any bit above that seam. That is like huge. And you'll be a little bit faster. So it's a little bit of a speed boost to be up here, but it is a little bit of a tire wear. As we get later in the run, of course, and you want to maybe defend some positions, or you want to start making up some time on somebody. Who knows when cautions are going to come out, but yeah, you can start running this top line here. All right, now let's go check our tires, because we ran a multitude of lines, but we put the fundamentals into all of them. So we'll see how the tires are wearing. 95, 94, so that's good. We're keeping on the right rear. As the run goes along, this will transition back to the right front. So by being able to run the bottom and saving a little bit of this right front here and use a little bit more of the right rear, that'll help us a lot on the end of the run. All right, thank you all for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you all on the track.